This is the CritRPG podcast, your one-stop shop for everything LitRPG, progression fantasy, and Royal Road. Welcome to the CritRPG podcast, a podcast where a German guy is talking to Australians about fantasy because they live close to New Zealand. Breaking the streak today is Aest Belequa, author of Time Flies. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. A little nervous, but that's okay. I've got notes to work off of.
A story about time-traveling sky pirates. How?
So I only started writing, creative writing fiction stuff 5 months ago. And my first story, Halcyon Nightmares, was a magical girl story, very similar to like Magical Girl Gunslinger and Stray Cat Strut. And I had no idea what I was doing. I basically got really lucky because Magical Girl Gunslinger went on hiatus, and I happened to be the number one on their readers also read thing.
Oh, okay.
So I got a lot of views and follows that way. And then I got picked up by the Council of the Eternal Hiatus server, and started learning how to actually write.
Okay.
I went through a whole bunch of different ideas about 3 months ago, like a semi-cozy witch revenge story, Valkyrie Isekai, and Ping Pong LitRPG.
A ping pong LitRPG.
Yeah, a ping pong LitRPG. All conflict in the world was replaced by ping pong, and it was essentially Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven, but with ping pong.
I would say you're making this up, but you are literally making this up. So
yeah. I wrote a whole chapter of it and then decided I couldn't do it. Yeah. But I'm a former 4th grade teacher, and one of the things that we taught was Treasure Island.
Oh.
And so I'm really familiar with Treasure Island, and pirates were always a thing I was interested in as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like pirates and a kid main character felt really solid.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was writing it, I just tried to go for as much of a Treasure Island, Treasure Planet, Pirates of the Caribbean kind of vibe as I could.
Yeah.
And the time travel just kind of fell in.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like that's too much?
No, I feel like I've balanced it out okay. The time travel is a little bit more of a slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just about ready to start posting the first time loopy stuff onto Royal Road, but I'm not there yet. 2 or 3 chapters.
I'm looking forward to that. I wish I had time to read all these stories in depth. But I'm still working my day job, of course.
I totally get that. My follow list is a nightmare.
Yeah, and it's very hard to kind of look for the right stories and stick with one because they're all so tasty and all these, right? So yours is obviously right up there.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the cover is super charming and super catchy, and I think the concept is also really cool, right? So I know that Royal Road is very much ninja territory, but I think pirate stories do have a space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another guy on our server that wrote steampunk pirates as well, and had a kind of similar result, I think. Just not as much success as they were hoping for.
Mm-hmm. How much success were you hoping for?
My goal when I started publishing it was to hit top 7 on Rising Stars, and I hoped that I would beat my previous story on follows. My previous stories at 1,278 followers, and this one's at 823, so I did not quite make it. But the good thing about being in a genre that's not super popular is the only people who click on it to read it are people who really want to read it, so my rating is ridiculous.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah, rating is definitely a thing that I'm quite struggling with right now. To the point where I think so this is my first railroad rodeo. And I think I made some like bad mistakes on my story, so didn't really format the power-ups really well. There were some points where maybe the intent wasn't so clear. And if you don't buy a book, right? If you could just get it for free, it's very easy to just go, okay, next, especially if it's in the second chapter.
Right. I totally get that with the system and power-ups and stuff. I'm still trying to figure out how to write good progression, I guess.
What is good progression for you?
Making sure that the dopamine hits the reader at the right time. Like, one of the people on my server, or on the Coda server that I talk to a lot, talks a lot about like how to pace the novel with the reader in mind, rather than just what you want in mind. Talking a lot about how the reader should feel, and keeping that in mind as you write. And I think progression fantasy and LitRPG have a great system for doing that. I just have to figure out how to make the power-ups hit at the right time.
What have you learned about it so far?
So with Time Flies, one of the things that I learned from that is a lot of planning skills. So going into my first story, I basically pantsed it, and then worked myself into a pretty deep hole with a certain side character, where I hated writing her, the readers hated reading her, and she had very few redeemable qualities.
Okay.
And with Time Flies, before I ever wrote an arc, I'd have the arc all the way planned out and have an idea of what the next couple were. And then I also switched to a 7-point structure from no structure at all that let me set up the major beats for every arc.
So you've become more of a plotter.
Yeah, much more of a plotter.
Okay.
And I'm working on another project, and that's gotten even worse, to the point where it's starting to be a little bit ridiculous. I had the whole story completely plotted out before I wrote a word.
Okay. For me, I've tried plotting, and it did not work for me at all. When I know how a story ends, I can no longer write it. I'm noticing this right now for my current arc. I screwed up my hand real bad. I got like repetitive strain injury and like some sort of carpal tunnel thing combined. So I couldn't type for a while. So I just plotted it all out. And now that I have more time, I'm struggling so hard because I know how it's going to end, and it's no longer exciting, right?
Yeah, for me, it was about avoiding major pitfalls like that. And also trying to write with where the characters were going in mind, so that I had some idea of how they needed to act to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. You were talking about COTEH a lot. I'm actually going to link a card of theirs in the description of this podcast. So if you guys are interested in a really cool server about writing, well, go and join them. So far, I think it's 3,000 members or something.
I'm not sure on the membership, but there's a lot of us. And we're really craft focused, really
Mm-hmm.
focused on improving writing quality, improving the skills you need to be successful. I guess this is
Mm-hmm.
kind of my shameless plug. Um, I run or organize the critique groups, and this month we had, I want to say, 26 members
Oh, cool.
split across 9 teams, 8 or 9 teams.
Oh, that's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
What if I'm a reader? If I'm just a reader, not a writer, what's something I can get from the server too?
So a whole bunch of the authors have reading communities within the server. I know Crownfall. Crownfall runs the server, and he's got a community hidden away somewhere. And then there's a general reading community as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of novel recommendations, discussion about different books. Cradle 12 just came out, and that was big in there for several days. The Captain was big a month or two ago. This Is How You Lose the Time War has been
Oh,
big.
oh yeah.
I'm reading that for a book group.
Rebel System 4 is also out.
Mm-hmm.
Shatter Soul. And right now I'm actually reading that and having a blast reading it. Travis Baldry is doing an excellent job again. I don't know anyone who can put so much personality into a talking axe. It is just the greatest thing. And combining that with like this hilarious writing, I really recommend the Ripple system in general, but from book 2 onwards, it like really picks up. I think many lit RPGs or progression fantasies have this thing where the author still has to get into a groove at the beginning. None of them really like slap from the start. Or do you know any?
um, Lit RPGs that slap from the very beginning. Demonic Devourer by Slifer
Mm-hmm.
starts out pretty hard. Like it's not messing around. Yeah, like Demonic Devourer's first line is like objective: first eat the babies. So you know it's gonna go hard.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Mm.
I think getting the tension right at the beginning is, I'm not going to say easy, but getting the feel of the story right from the very first page, that's something that is rarer. And yeah, it's a bit of a struggle, I think.
Yeah, and like first lines and first chapters are so important, um, and so hard to really get right.
Yeah.
I Time Flies first chapter went through several drafts and a lot of critique, and it's still not performing quite where I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It just doesn't have the punch at the end, I don't think, to keep people reading.
Okay.
But you learn from every book you write.
What's something you've learned, for example?
So I talked a lot about the planning a little bit ago,
Mm-hmm.
but I sat down with Crownfall for a while about Super Supportive, the novel.
Mm-hmm.
After I started reading it, and I just could not figure out why it was so good. And we talked a lot about conflict threading and tying emotions to different like mice quotient threads. So in that book, like in that story, whenever the main character is investigating something, whenever it's an inquiry thread, there's a certain vibe of like sadness to it. And so that emotion gets tied to that type of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've tried to do with Time Flies, but I'm especially working hard on for my next story.
Okay. How would I as a reader see that come about? Can you give an example?
Alden, the main character in Super Supportive, he his parents get killed when he's a kid, and he gets saved by like a sidekick kind of superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, when he's starting to grow up and he's like an early teenager, I think, he starts digging into exactly what happened. And he's got all of these emotions tied to his parents' death, and like these very like sad, nostalgic kind of emotions. But when his friends show up later in that chapter, it switches from being like an internally character driven conflict to something that's more external event driven.
Mm-hmm.
And his emotional state switches from this sad, nostalgic kind of state to something a lot more like happy and excited.
Okay.
And that tends to happen every time that his friends show up. So
Okay.
that, not like a combative conflict, but that conflict with him wanting to become a superhero and being really into it, and his friends kind of feeling like it's probably not going to happen and stuff. That conflict is highlighted with like a happy emotion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
And one of the things that Super Supportive does really well is the authors flipping between conflicts and their emotions about every like 1,000 to 1,500 words.
Mm-hmm.
So they often leave the chapter on an unresolved kind of emotion or unresolved conflict.
Oh yeah, of course. How did you get into the whole lit RPG genre? What got you interested in it, and what's maybe some of the books you read that you can really recommend or that you really admire?
So I found Royal Road. I had no idea what LitRPG was at all, like a year
Oh
ago,
wow.
a year and a half ago, I guess. I found Royal Road through the book First Contact by Ralt's Bloodborne. It's a military sci-fi epic that is approaching 1,000 chapters.
Okay.
And I read it to 800 chapters twice before I ever made an account on Royal Road.
Mm-hmm.
So then I made an account and I started reading all sorts of other stories. And I've always been a like Pathfinder player and a Dungeons and Dragons player, so LitRPG felt kind of natural to me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I read, I already talked a little bit about Slifer, but until I read Dungeon Tour Guide that I was like, I think I can do this. Because it's a weird combination of like Isekai lit RPG and Dungeon Core, but I really liked it. And I started thinking about like what kind of stories can I write, and none of the stories that I originally thought about ever got written. They're all just sitting there in my like to be read file.
Yeah, I think I have like 64 Scrivener projects that I've been carrying around with me since like 2010. So it's a struggle to know where to invest the time in and where not. But it's good to have, right? Because every time you think, oh my lord, I don't have anything to write anymore, or what if this book fails? You have more stuff. You can do more stuff.
Yeah, there's always something. But anyway, that's how I got into LitRPG.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, Dungeon Tour Guide sounds super exciting. It's on my to-read list still. I really wish I had more time. So please, do give me Patreon money. The link is right below this podcast. Just give me lots of money so I can quit my day job and read more books. Thank you. Joke aside, we also talked about, hey, how you got into lit RPG, what's something that's really exciting for you in lit RPG, but I really want to talk about, well, new books that you love. So is there anyone you really want to shout out? And don't say Merchant Crab.
Oh man, it was on my list.
Damn it.
All right, so if I can't talk about Merchant Crab and Pies, which I guess I'm not allowed to, sorry, host.
Yeah.
If I can't talk about that, I've got one story in mind that is absolutely not getting enough attention, and it's because it doesn't fit the typical Royal Road genre stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, my friend Ad Aspera writes The Road Unseen.
Oh.
It's an urban fantasy tragedy that basically is play stupid games, win stupid prizes for the two main characters. They dig into their grandpa's old magic books, figure out that magic is real, and jump right into like contacting the Fae.
Okay.
And the Fae kidnap one, the other one has to get her back, and it is super tragic. Lots of really great emotional writing. The prose is fantastic. The storyline's really tight. There's a lot of really awesome side stories that flesh out the world really well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not getting the traction it should. It's in like the mid 40s on Rising Stars right now, and it really deserves to be much higher.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it right now, right? So it's been out for 21 days, and I think it's already gotten enough followers to know that it's really good. So it's sitting at 181 followers and an overall score of 4.67. So if you're reading it and you're into something a little more experimental for Royal Road, and you're looking to go out of your comfort zone, do give The Roads Unseen, square brackets, Urban Fantasy Gone Wrong, by Ad Aspera, a look. Really good shout out. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, so I'm a little bit distracted. So I'm thinking maybe I could just read out the blurb.
Sure, go for it.
All right. So, in the wake of their grandfather's death, the Offrey twins discovered that magic was real. They did what any college freshman would do and took a risk. Of course, they didn't know how high the stakes were. In the fairy woods, there are worse fates than failure and death. Their bloodline is the only thing that saves them when things go wrong. One stays there, captive in a world she used to dream about. The other goes home, to a world they never really knew, desperate to save her sister's soul before it's too late. So what to expect? Mistakes, consequences, fae of the vindictive sort, sphinxes, party cults, okay, and tragically broken characters. Again, if you're looking for quick numbers go up, maybe this is not the right book for you. But if you're into feeling emotions and getting traumatized, I think that sounds pretty cool.
It was Merchant Crab.
It was Merchant Crab. No, it wasn't Merchant Crab. Oh, yeah, right. So my shout out is going to go to Let's Not Obliterate, an OPMC romance. So it's the complete contrast. If you're looking for really big numbers and really OP stuff, do give this one a read. It also has emotions, but only the fluffy good ones, I promise. I don't promise, but do give it a read. It's by Little Help, who's an amazing human being, by the way. They are not of little help, they're of great help, actually. And I think you should really give it a go. So, the blurb, I'm going to rush through this a little bit. Slaying the ancient evil, Theora would rather sleep. The system is displeased with its strongest heroine because Theora keeps putting off completing her main quest. And when she finally arrives to meet the ancient evil, it introduces herself as Dima, a cute demoness who doesn't want to be killed. So, they do side quests instead. But their clock is ticking, the system won't tolerate being denied forever. I think that's friggin' cute.
I've read the first 5 or 6 chapters. It's on my list, and I'm just overwhelmed with all the reading I have to do.
Yeah.
But I really have enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, I've gone through some of the chapters myself. This one has been out for 26 days. I think the trope of what happens after the hero wins is never done enough. I love that trope, and it's a spin-off of that, I think. So, absolutely, again, Let's Not Obliterate. Do give it a read if you're interested in cute romances and, demon girls, I guess. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Do you want to give any shout-outs that's not Merchant Crab?
I want to once again shout out the Council of the Eternal Hiatus server.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool server, very chill. It was really intimidating joining it and seeing like Excarnation, who writes Reborn as a demonic tree,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the other like really big names on Royal Road, just like chilling and shitposting and stuff. But it's a really great server, really positive vibes, really craft focused. And then, yeah, I think I covered most of my other shout outs in passing, so that works.
Awesome. Then I think this is it.
Awesome.
All right. Look, we finally went through an entire podcast without shouting out Merchant Crab by host.
I mean, we inadvertently shouted out Merchant Crab by host about 4 times.
No, we did not shout out Merchant Crab by host. We explicitly did not.
Yeah, don't read Merchant Crab by host, whatever you do. Don't do it.
It is too hilarious. It must be contained. I think we've taken this joke as far as we can.
Probably.
Very much so. Thank you everyone for listening, and check out all the books we've discussed today in the links below. Do consider buying me a coffee or signing up for my Patreon. And yeah, thank you so much for listening in. We're at, I think, 250 listeners over all podcasting sites, and I think like 350 or something on YouTube, which is more than I ever thought I would reach with this silly little podcast. Thank you so much, and I'll see you later.